There's a robot on the floor of a BMW plant in South Carolina right now. It's not a robotic arm bolted to the ceiling, not a conveyor belt. It's a bipedal machine, the size of a person, doing the kind of tasks that used to require a person. That's not a test. That's not a demo reel. That's called a deployment. And the question everyone's asking wrong is, when will robots replace us? The question that actually matters is, who's going to be caught off guard when the transition happens faster than the headlines suggest? Here's what I want to show you today. First, where humanoid robots are actually working right now, not in the lab, not in a staged video. Second, why this moment is different from every robotic hype cycle before it. And third, what this means for you specifically, depending on where you work. By the end of this, you'll have a clear picture of where the line is between real deployment and marketing theater. That line matters more than you think. Let's start with what's actually happening on the ground. In 2024, Agility Robotics Digit became the first commercially deployed humanoid robot in a real logistics environment. GXO Logistics, one of the largest third-party logistics companies in the world, put Digit to work at a facility in Georgia. The task sounds simple. Pick totes off one conveyor. Place them on another. Repeat. But that's the point. The task sounds simple because it was designed to sound simple. What it actually demonstrates is autonomous operation in a real environment, under real constraints, without a human babysitting every cycle. That same year, Figure AI signed a commercial agreement with BMW. Figure 02, their second-generation platform, began working inside BMW Spartanburg plant in South Carolina. By late 2025, the deployment had expanded. Tesla, operating as both manufacturer and end customer, had Optimus Gen 2 handling battery cell components inside their Fremont facility. Apptronik Apollo, backed in part by NASA and Google, partnered with Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes took a stake in Apptronik and began testing Apollo in German and Hungarian plants. These aren't announcements. These are active deployments. Now here's the honest picture behind those names. Industry analysts at Bain & Company put it plainly in their 2025 technology report. Most current deployments remain early stage. Heavy reliance on human supervision. Narrow task sets. Controlled environments where traffic is limited and predictable. Figure 02 can run 20-hour continuous shifts. Agility's Digit is autonomous within a defined warehouse cell. But ask either robot to handle something outside its trained parameters, and performance drops fast. The real number being tracked right now is roughly 16,000 humanoid robot units installed globally as of 2025. That's meaningful progress from near zero in 2023. But against a global manufacturing workforce of hundreds of millions, it's the very beginning of a very long curve. So why does this moment feel different from the robotic hype cycles of the past decade? Two things changed, and they changed at the same time. First, AI. Goldman Sachs research put out a report that raised their 2035 humanoid market projection from $6 billion to $38 billion, a more than six-fold revision. The reason they gave, and this is the exact language from their analysts, was that AI progress surprised them the most. Specifically, end-to-end AI models that allow robots to train themselves, removing the requirement for a human engineer to manually code every task. That's not a marginal improvement. That's a structural shift in how quickly these systems can be deployed on new problems. The second change, cost. Manufacturing cost for high-spec humanoid robots dropped 40% between 1 year and the next. What had been priced in the $250,000 range started moving toward $150,000. Unitree's G1 entered the market below $20,000 at base specifications. That's the same cost compression pattern you saw in solar panels, in electric vehicles, in every technology that moves from breakthrough to infrastructure. Goldman Sachs's base case projects over 250,000 humanoid robot shipments in 2030. Their estimate for global shipments by 2035, 1.4 million units. The market, $38 billion. Their blue sky scenario has humanoids becoming as ubiquitous as smartphones. Here's the catch though. Most deployments right now sit in a narrow band of tasks, tote and bin movement in logistics, light material transfer between stations, visual inspection routes. Battery life on most platforms runs between 2 and 8 hours before a swap is needed. achieving a full uninterrupted 8-hour shift without recharging. Bain's analysts say that could take up to 10 years at current energy density improvement rates. The gap between where humanoids are today and where they need to be for mass deployment is real. The question is whether the gap closes faster than anyone predicted. Given that AI just did exactly that in every domain it touched, the answer is probably yes. You've been watching Smart AI Hustle. We're halfway through. What's coming next is the part most coverage skips. The specific factors that determine whether a humanoid deployment succeeds or becomes an expensive pilot nobody talks about, and what the people who work in these environments actually need to be tracking. Here's what separates real deployment from marketing theater. 3 things. Task specificity, environment control, supervision cost. The deployments that are working right now all share one characteristic. The robot doesn't need to figure out what to do. It executes a defined task in a defined space with predictable inputs. Digit picks totes. Figure 02 places parts. The moment variability increases. Irregular objects, unexpected obstacles, new environments. Performance degrades and human intervention goes up. That supervision cost is the hidden number in every humanoid deployment right now. A robot that requires a human monitor watching every cycle isn't saving labor. It's redistributing it. The companies that are getting real ROI from early deployments understood this going in. They picked tasks where automation failure is recoverable. They picked environments they could control. They measured cycle times against their existing baselines before signing the contract. This is why the logistics and automotive sectors moved first. Not because they're the easiest applications for humanoids, because they have the data infrastructure to measure what a robot actually delivers versus what a press release claims. China is approaching this differently than the West. China holds 61% of robotics hardware unveiling since 2022 and owns roughly 70% of component supply chains according to Morgan Stanley's 2025 analysis. The Chinese humanoid robot market is projected to grow from 2.76 billion yuan in 2024 to over 100 billion yuan by 2030. The country is building specialized training centers for robot technicians, launching component supply chains deliberately, treating humanoid deployment as national industrial strategy. That's not a startup bet. That's infrastructure investment at scale. The US approach is different, and not necessarily slower. Western companies, particularly Figure AI and Apptronik, hold what analysts describe as the most sophisticated AI software models in the field. Figure AI closed a $1 billion Series C at roughly a $39 billion valuation. That's not hype money. That's conviction from investors who've seen the internal deployment data. The geography of this industry is splitting into AI and software dominance in the West, hardware and component manufacturing dominance in Asia. Both sides need each other to scale. So here's what this actually means for you. 5 moves, based on what the deployment data actually shows. 1. Stop measuring your job security against the demo video. Measure it against task structure. If your work involves high variability, judgment calls, irregular environments, or relationship management, you're outside the current deployment window by years. If your work involves repetitive physical tasks in a structured environment, that window is getting shorter. 2. Understand what's actually being automated in your industry, not the headlines, the specific tasks. In logistics, it's tote movement. In automotive, it's light part handling and inspection. If those tasks touch your workflow, the question isn't whether it's coming, it's when and how your company plans to transition workers out of those roles. 3. The jobs being created around humanoid deployment are real and currently understaffed. Robot technicians, deployment engineers, AI trainers, maintenance specialists. China is building training infrastructure for these roles deliberately. Companies in every other market are scrambling to find people who understand how to operate in hybrid human-robot environments. That skill set doesn't require a robotics engineering degree. It requires proximity and willingness to learn before it's required. 4. Pay attention to the supervision model in your sector. Every deployment right now relies on human oversight. The workers who position themselves as the oversight layer, not the task layer, are the ones with the most durable roles in this transition. Understanding how to interpret robot performance data, flag edge cases, and make judgment calls about when to escalate. That's not a robot's job. Not yet. 5. The $38 billion projection from Goldman Sachs isn't a fait accompli. It's a forecast built on assumptions. Continued AI progress, continued cost reduction, continued adoption momentum. What derails it? Safety incidents at scale, regulatory intervention, labor agreements that slow deployment timelines. Knowing the risk factors for the technology affecting your sector is the same analytical skill that separates people who navigate disruption from people who get swept by it. The structural reality of what's happening in 2026 is this. Humanoid robots have left the lab. They haven't left the pilot stage. The gap between those two things is where most of the important decisions get made. By companies, by policymakers, and by workers. The demo era is over. The deployment era just started. And the deployment era rewards the people who understand it early, not the ones who wait until it's impossible to miss. What's your read on this? Are you seeing any of this in your own industry? Drop it in the comments. I want to know what's hitting close to home. If this gave you a clearer picture, subscribe. Every week we break down AI tools, AI skills, and what's actually happening in the AI economy without the hype, the fear, or the headlines designed to make you panic. Just what the data shows and what you can do with it. The next video, AI agents going from chat windows into actual business workflows. That one's already moving faster than most people realize.